Hello. Happy Monday, everyone. Hello. I know it's a happy bank holiday Monday for everyone in the UK. Hi. I'm coming to you today, and I'm gonna be joined by a friend, Samantha Dholakia. She is a coach and just gonna be joining us in any minute now. And while she does, I'm just gonna tell you a little bit of why I'm here today. So today is Monday, and I used to come every Monday and meet different specialists to talk about different aspects and challenges of being a mother and parenting and going through matrescence, which is that period of becoming mothers. And one of the challenges that we face, so we talk about breastfeeding, we talk about sleeping, we talk about many things in the past, but now we're going to be talking about parenting toddlers. So a big challenge that we face as mothers is when we have children, they're babies, and we're kind of settled in that baby stage, and they move into toddlerhood, and they started to change behaviors. Their needs are different. There's so many things that change with their behavior that changes what is needed from us as mothers and as parents. So I think parenting toddlers and is one of the biggest challenges that we face in the early years of motherhood. So I'm going to be joined by Samantha today. So she is a ORC specialist behavior and emotions coach. She works with parents, carers, teachers, and leadership teams and children. Samantha is a founder of SPD Tuition and Coaching. She's got 15 years of experience with working with children from 3 months onwards. She created what's called the balance system, which is a system that supports emotional regulation in homes, schools, and nurseries in order to shift behavior, aid development, and accelerate learning. So she works with kind of across the whole spectrum, from schools, from nurseries, and parents and children. And she runs parental strategy sessions to support parents in being parents. And hi, Sam, and she's here today. And I'm just gonna ask her to join us today. Where are you? Let's see if that works. Let's see if you can join us, Sam. Yay!
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy bank
How are
holiday,
you?
friends.
Happy. Are you on the sunshine? Are you enjoying the
I
sunshine?
am. I am. So we've come down for the weekend to the beach. We've been down in Eastbourne.
Oh,
So yeah, we're making the most of those 3 days.
oh, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to joining me today in your holiday.
Anytime, Jazz. Anytime.
Nice to have you
How
here.
are you?
I've been in your life, but you've never been on mine, so it's good. Good to have you. I'm
Thank
good.
you.
I'm good. I'm good. Enjoying as well. Staying home, but enjoying the bank holiday.
Nice. Good.
Yes.
Glad to hear it.
So I was just introducing you. I know a lot of people will be on holiday and will probably won't watch this live, but I will repost it, and people can watch it whenever they want to. I'll share it, and people can watch it whenever they want to. So I went through the introduction of who you are, but why don't you kind of take us a little bit of what you do and kind of how you work supporting, particularly, I know you do a lot of things working with schools and all, like a 360, but particularly what you do about supporting parents with toddlers.
So everything that we do has one kind of core element to it, and that is supporting adults in any form with children when it comes to behaviour, and then obviously the knock-on effects academically and socially, etc. So we often do a lot of support with parents with toddlers because, as we all know, being kind of from being a toddler mum myself, it's a challenge
Yes.
when it comes to behaviour. The
Yeah.
brain is very different at that stage of development. So it's a really kind of a really tricky time for lots of parents, lots of practitioners. You know, kind of we work with nurseries as well, and we look at the science behind the behaviour. So when parents are finding, you know, they want to like pull out their hair because their children are, you know, driving them a bit bonkers, we look at what it is that drives that behaviour, and we support them with strategies, techniques, a bit of science behind it, so that they feel that they can, I guess, I want to say tackle the challenges a little bit more, but, you know, support them more,
Yeah.
rather than having that constant kind of pushback and that
Yeah.
power struggle, which is often, particularly kind of parents with young children, often come to me because that's what's happening, is that
Yeah.
they get that pushback, they get that why, they get that no a little bit more often than they would like. And yeah, so we kind of help them through that, and we do that through parental support strategy sessions, which is where we work directly just with the parents. We do that as a group as well, so we run talking to toddlers sessions where parents can come as a group, and we talk through everything that they're experiencing.
Yeah.
And then we also have our downloadable talking to toddlers sessions, which people can watch at their own leisure.
Great, great. That's great. So there's a lot on it, and like you said, there's the science why things happen, and then kind of how to support that behavior. But let's start with what's going on. What's going on with toddler? You know, you have a little baby who's just trying to please you, listening to you every time you say something, and just every time you ask them to come, and it's just super compliant. And then that shifts. And so what's going on? Why is this so?
So when we think about the developing brain, if we think by the age of around 2, 3, 75% of the brain is developed. By the age of 5, 90% of the brain is developed. However, the bit that is not developing at quite the rate, the rest of it is the cortex, so the prefrontal cortex and the upstairs part of the brain, if you like. And that's the part of the brain that gives you logical thought, it gives you problem solving, in a sense that you're able to overcome things, regulate your emotions a bit more easily. All of that sort of stuff is all done from that upstairs part of the brain. The downstairs part of the brain, which is the part of the brain that I guess deals with us being safe and our survival, you know, mechanisms, that part of the brain develops first because, of course, they need to survive.
Of course,
The
you have
most
to keep
important
them
thing for
alive,
any
keep
baby or
themselves alive.
child, yeah, right, is just stay alive. So that's why we get that part developed first. So when we think about the parts of the brain that are developing, and they are developing at an exponential rate, that's the part that we're really thinking about, is the survival part. What's going to keep them alive? They need to be able to make judgments. They need to be able to be inquisitive and cautious. They need to be able to question things. So all of that kind of pushback element is really important.
Yeah.
It's just not particularly useful as a parent trying to be like, get your shoes on.
Leave the house now.
What were you going to say, Jazz?
Yeah, like when you want to leave the house, like now. It's like,
Yeah, absolutely. So that part of the brain is kind of in full swing, and it's the top part that works with it, that we're missing in terms of the developing brain there. So when we think about the toddler brain, they can be very overwhelmed very quickly, because a lot of what our brains are developed brains, and remember, our brains only really finish around the age of 25 in terms of development.
wow.
But yeah, right. So when we think about the developing brain, and we think about that toddler brain, everything that they're going through in that stage of growth is all really happening really quickly. And of course, when something happens really quickly, it means that there's a lot going on at once. And for that developing brain, and that jump between I guess the 75% and the 90%,
Yes, it's a lot.
their senses can be massively overwhelmed. They are not sure what everything is for and why. So that's kind of a massive element of a loss of it, is, you know, well, why have I got to do that? What do you mean? You know, and I always use the example. I remember a while ago when my son had just turned 3, or he might have not even turned 3 yet. And I was like, right, we need to go up the stairs and get you dressed. Come with me. We're going to go upstairs. And I remember him just looking at me and saying, well, no, mummy, you go upstairs and get dressed, and then I'll get dressed afterwards. We don't both need to go upstairs.
Yeah. And you're
And I
like,
remember being like, actually, you're so right. We don't both have to go upstairs. You are pretty fine. You're having a play. That's
yeah.
fine. I can get dressed in peace. And then I can get you dressed. And I think sometimes we don't necessarily take the opportunity to be like, okay, you're actually a little human with your own thoughts. Let me see if my thoughts or your thoughts are better in this moment. So now that's the thing in our house. You know, I'll be like, I'm going to go and get ready. You play. I always put a timer on. And then he comes up when I'm ready. And then we get him ready. And it's super quick. And it makes it so much less stressful than it was.
Yeah.
And it's because he had an input. He had control.
Yeah.
And I think when we think about the toddler brain, that is the one thing that we forget, is that all humans love control, but the toddler brain, because they are going through a bit of a wiring stage, they're creating neurological pathways, which are the blueprint to our adulthood, you know, when it comes to our brain. They're creating all this, and because they're firing at such an exponential rate, we forget that control is something that they really need. You know, they need to feel in control, they need to understand things.
And it's quite new, right? Because if you think about the baby has zero control of it. There's no control from the baby. Even there's absolutely control what happens to him, where he goes, where he moves, and then he starts to slowly start to get some control of that, moving to places. And then as a toddler, you know, suddenly you got so much things that you think that you can control, of the baby or the toddler, I guess. And then, but it's almost like and the opposite for the parent, right? Because when you are a part of a baby, you're in control of absolutely everything. What you eat, when you eat, what you wear, when you wear, when you get dressed, when you get changed, everything. So it's quite the toddler gets more control, and the parent feel that.
Has to let go a little
Parents can feel that shape, you know.
It's really hard because our primary driver is to keep our children safe.
Of course.
And the best way we can do that is to be in full control.
Yeah.
That's how we know they're safe. And I think when we get to the toddler stage and they want control, and you think, oh my goodness, I have to share the reins here a bit. But you don't really know what you're doing. You know, it's a bit like sitting next to a learner driver, isn't it? Like, oh my goodness, thank goodness I have the brake pedal, you know. But it's very similar, because you kind of watch what they're doing and you think, oh gosh, this is going to end badly. But do I completely step in? Do I let them figure it out?
Yes.
You know, and it's that need for us to keep them safe, which is a completely, you know, primitive need, and thank goodness we have that. But also that need for them to get out and explore. And it's always finding the balance of that. I mean, I work with families on both spectrums, you know, in terms of that. You know, some parents who can't relinquish any control and find it very, very difficult, very, very stressful. And it obviously is very detrimental to their health as well as their children's, because they just can't let go any of the control. And then I work with some parents that are like, you know, that the child just is running rings around me and I don't know what to do, but I don't feel like I've got any control at all.
That's the other thing. Like there's a balance, right? So because children also need those boundaries and that structure in a way. They need, if you kind of just leave them do their they taking the reins, it's also detrimental for them. It's not very helpful. It doesn't make them feel safe, right?
That's exactly it. And that, you know, if we think about the part of the brain that's kind of more developed, that need for safety is the kind of primary part. So if we do not set boundaries, and we do not offer what I call kind of supported choices and supported control, they are basically, you know, kind of floundering, because there's no posts either side to guide them. So then we find that children get really uncomfortable in their own control because they have too much control and they don't know what to do with it. And their brain is like, alert, alert, alert. You know, what do I do? This is not safe. But because they don't know how to make the situation safe, they're a bit lost with it. So boundaries and setting boundaries are really, really useful for us as parents, you know, and practitioners, because it keeps not only our amygdala, our kind of safety part of the
Mm-hmm.
brain, calm and collected, but it also
Yes.
allows them to do the same. And they know then, because you've set a boundary, that whatever they do, you've got them. You know that you can give it a go. I took my son to, so my son is now nearly 3.5. Gosh, time just goes so
Yeah.
quickly, doesn't it, Jess?
Yeah, I know.
Where did that go? But we went to a farm last week, and there was a climbing wall there. Now he's never been on a climbing wall. He's quite an adventurous little soul, quite
Yeah.
out there, and he's very, very quick. And he'd gotten round there. Now I wasn't fast enough to get round there before he got to the wall because I wasn't quite sure where he was going. And he's thrown himself and he's doing the rock climbing. And actually, I'll share it on my Instagram later so you can see. But he was doing the rock climbing, and he just got himself all the way to the top of this huge wall. I mean, he's not very big, and I could feel it coming out of my mouth of, oh, be careful, or,
Yes.
stop, you can't do that.
No.
And I thought, oh, catch that, don't say that out loud, because the last thing your child needs to hear when he's halfway up a wall is that he can't do it.
Careful.
Yeah.
You can fall.
Exactly. So I was just like, oh, hold on tight. Look where your hands are going. I was thinking, what can I do to focus his brain to help him? And so, because I'm not there to spot him. I'm on the other side of the
Yeah.
barrier. And he absolutely did fantastically. He got himself right up, and he turned to me and he said, I knew I can do it. I'm so strong. And I was like, yes, you are.
But that's really hard. But that's really hard as a parent to stop yourself from stopping them.
Yes.
And how do you do that? How can you work on that?
Big breath. I tend to replace the word with a breath, and that sounds so cliche. I know everyone talks about take a big breath, but actually, if you do that, you can choose your words rather than them just spilling out. So I could feel them coming, on the tip of my tongue. Breathe them back in, breathe those words back in, and then decide what you want to say with purpose, because sometimes you then start to, well, in fact, all the time, we always think of it as we are creating that internal voice. I always hear him, and actually we were there with a friend of the kids from nursery, and his little friend it was not quite as outgoing, shall we say, in terms of character. He was a bit more cautious, a bit more aware of himself, whereas my son just throws himself out there. I don't know why.
Yeah. Personality. Yeah. Could be personality.
So this little boy was having a go, and my son Hunter is saying to him, you've got this, you just hold on tight, you can do it. And the little boy is saying, I can't do it. And my son is saying to him, you can do it, you might just need help, you can do anything.
Oh, that's so sweet.
I hear myself coming through him, and I thought, he's already starting to internalize all the things that I say. And that's what we're doing as parents, is we're building that internal voice for our children. And if we're constantly saying, be careful, you can't do that, be careful, you can't do that, then when they grow and part of the brain is wired in, that's what they're left with. They're left with, oh, I can't do that. Oh, I have to be careful, I won't be able to do that. I go through this when we do the talking to toddlers. And I've got like script cards, and we go through different activities, and we look at language, that sort of jazz. It's really just about choosing the key phrases I like, I think, and plugging them in, so that when they go to have an experience, whatever that might be, they can be like, oh, which plug is it? Let me pick from the I've been given.
So it's almost like the way, if you kind of preempting those situations, and rather than just thinking about the things that you could say when you come into the situations, whenever they're doing something that might be risky, or when they're having problems with a strong emotion. Speaking about strong emotions, so what about temper tantrums? These situations where things get a little bit out of hand, and then the toddler has completely lost it. Like, there's no listening, there's just crying and legs kicking. And so what do you recommend, or how could you what can you say to our parents to support them in those tricky moments?
That's a great topic to discuss. I love it. It's one of my favourites. So a tantrum is basically a dysregulated emotion. And what that means, your child is overwhelmed with the feeling that your child is feeling in that moment. The part of the brain that is safety, plugged in for safety and safety developed, is saying the situation is not safe. And that doesn't mean that they are not safe externally.
Yeah.
It means that they do not feel internally safe, and that's because the feeling of an emotion, and if I always explain emotions as a vibration in the, so it's almost like they're having a little, we've got a load of script cards for parents and practitioners that have a volcano on for this, and it's almost like that vibration gets so big to the point where it kind of bubbles all of the emotion up until it has to escape. And one of the things I teach all the parents and practitioners that I work with is ways they can introduce positive outs for children, and we have something called the balance system for that, where children and adults can use a basket and a whole range of resources that they can use and implement there. The idea really is that you have to co-regulate in these moments. So there's a lot of talk out there about self-regulation, and self-regulation is really crucial. But the developing brain, 75% by the age of...
I missed you there because you're breaking up a little bit.
Pardon?
So you were breaking up a little bit. Can you repeat that?
So sorry. So if we think about the 75% brain development at that age, self-regulation isn't really possible in that moment unless they're taught how to. And unfortunately, a lot of the time as grown-ups, whether we're practitioners or parents, we have an expectation of behaviour. We don't necessarily teach how to do that. We don't teach the skills within the behaviour. We want our children to regulate. They don't have the toolkit because we've not sat them down and been like, when you feel this, this is what you do.
You need to do this, of course. And sometimes we don't have them ourselves as adults.
Most of us weren't taught those tools either, we just kind of let it ride and then hope for the best. So in terms of our tantruming toddlers or dysregulated toddlers is what they really are. What we're seeing there is an emotion trying to come out, but not always in the best possible way. It's not a positive out. And the main thing that I talk about there is that co-regulation, and that's basically where our nervous system tells their nervous system that they are safe and that they're okay. And the best way to do that is to regulate yourself, which is really darn hard when you have a screaming child at you, kind of pulling your hair or lashing it.
Yes, pulling your hair in the middle of the supermarket. You got the groceries on one hand, toddler on the next one. Is like,
absolutely, and it's really difficult, isn't it? And again, kind of going back to that breath work and all the stuff that you can do as an adult to keep your amygdala at bay, your survival brain at bay. Because what happens when someone shouts at you? Your amygdala says that's not safe.
Yeah.
Even if it
goes on fire. Goes on fire.
Absolutely. So what we find then is that they're shouting at us. Our amygdala doesn't feel safe. So often parents or adults will kind of shout back, or will get that unsafe feeling themselves. And if we don't feel safe, they don't feel safe in our presence. They are like, well, you're not safe. Who's safe? Where's the safeness?
Yeah.
So it's really about kind of making sure that in that moment you check in with yourself and you tell your brain, I am safe. It's okay. They are just a baby. Just a toddler.
It's just my child. It's not a lion.
It's not a lion. Exactly. Not under attack.
Yes.
Feel it at that point. So it's just about making sure that your nervous system knows that you are still safe.
Yeah.
And breathing is a really great way to do that, or movement in some form.
Yes.
Even kind of putting on a bit of music in the background if you think it can help you. And then being able to kind of regulate yourself. And I always say to parents, just say out loud, I am safe and you are safe. You're not feeling good. I didn't feel too great. Let's work together.
Yes.
Approach when it comes to all of behaviour, It really is about your child or you in your class as a team.
Absolutely. And it's there's something here that I just wanted to ask you. So sometimes we see parents, or I see parents just worried about being in those moments, being not setting the boundary, for instance. So saying, if I have to set the boundary because, you know, whatever, they threw a toy and I have to tell them off because they threw a toy or they kicked me or whatever. But I think in that moment, the child is not listening. It's not gonna get the lesson. So what do you have to can you expand on that?
I think it's that thought that's the challenge. I have to do this. They need to be told off. And it's those thoughts that are, they're definitely how I was brought up, and so many people are brought up, and I think actually, is it safe or unsafe questions to always ask? Is it them throwing the door? Is it safe? Is it going to damage something? What do I need to do in that moment? So if it's the first thing that you're going to say, or you can practice saying with your child, that's not safe. My job's to keep you safe. I'm going to have to take that if you continue to do it, or if you do that again, that toy's going in because it's not safe. We'll play with it later. Feeling is not a feeling of kind of negative judgment. It's not a feeling of blame and shame.
Yes.
Of, hey, I've got your back. That's really hard. Like, you're really tempted by throwing a toy on the floor. Don't worry, I'm going to help you not do that again. And
I'm going to take it out so you don't have to. You don't have to worry about throwing it away.
Yeah. A really great go-to phrase here is, can you pick that up, or do you need help? And I think sometimes children are like, well, I can pick it up. I know that okay, I'll put it back in the bag. Or sometimes my son will now say, no, actually, I think I need help. I feel I'm getting angry.
I'm overwhelmed.
Yeah. And then, or sometimes he's like, I don't want to pick it up. And I'm like, well,
yeah, he's normally more like that. My conversations with my children are more like on that. I don't want to.
But I always say out loud, and I get my parents and my practitioners say the thing: practice makes progress, and the more we practice it, the more progress we see in it. So if you're finding that your child's doing something that you don't want them to do, having that conversation with them after the event is really, in the moment, you're like, is this safe or is this not safe? Do we need to do this now, or could we come back and do it later? Choices, all of that sort of stuff is really, really crucial to, one, their control need, two, obviously that safety element and your need to maintain. But I think one of the biggest things, particularly parents, not necessarily parents, is the judgment from adults around them.
The judgment from?
The judgment from the adults around them.
Of course.
I'm worrying that they'll be seen as, too soft or not tough enough, or out of,
or not a good parent.
Or,
like someone's gonna say like she's a bad mom because she's not, I don't know.
Yeah.
Controlling her child or whatever.
Absolutely. And I think this is the fear, isn't it, in society? But I think it comes back to that very old kind of idea of children being seen and not heard. And actually, I don't know about you, Jazz, but I want my I want him to grow up in a world where he's listened to, he is understood.
Of course.
He listens and understands other people. But if
absolutely.
Himself, the inside, he's not going to show that on the outside. So I think it's really important that we remember that those thoughts are old thoughts from a world where we don't really understand the brain in the way we do now. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think I do come across with those thoughts and from myself, and I just try to remember that I had to learn as an adult how to regulate my emotions, and I'm still learning because I didn't have these tools, or nobody taught me how, or maybe my parents didn't have the understanding back then, and I didn't learn this when I was a child. So I'm doing this to teach my child now, so she doesn't have to deal with it in the future, when she's an adult.
Yeah, absolutely. And they watch everything.
Yes.
watch, take it in, and what they don't remember is their mind. They remember physically in their body. So even if you start practicing this and your child's not a toddler yet, perfect, you know, because actually they will have that in their physicality, have it in their muscle memory, in their body, in their being, and then as they they will have those tools that we, you know, you and I and so many of our friends, you know, people around us don't have, because we weren't approached, you know, in this way, and we weren't given those stages of development.
Yeah, absolutely. I know this is a topic that we could just talk about for hours, and there's so many like branches of things that we could go deeper in, and it's lovely to chat to you and see you, and I hope we can catch up face to face soon when you're back in London. But for now, I think we're coming to the end of our half an hour. But you just say, just how can you support parents, or what are you kind of doing where they can get any help from you?
Absolutely. So we, as I said, we run that. We run our Talking to Toddlers program. We run that live, but we also have our downloadables. I run a private kind of session for parents to go through strategies, and we look at their particular child needs, because all behaviour is about a need. You know, it's about a need that they have.
Yes.
So we look at the needs of the family, we look at the needs of the children in particular, and we kind of strategize and go through that together, which is really powerful. And then we also do teacher training as well. So we go into nurseries, we go into school settings. We're actually working with some universities at the moment as well, all looking at science behind behaviour and how we can support it with a slightly different approach to what we see, I think, sometimes out in the world. I'm on a big mission, Jack. A big mission.
I know you are. I'm hoping we can work together. Yeah, I know we will.
Absolutely.
All right.
To get in touch, they can absolutely send me a DM, or they can check out the website, which will be changing very soon because we're just having it updated. It's a little bit outdated at the moment, the website, but you can still get in touch through there, or you can email me directly at spdnutritionandcoaching@gmail.com. So any of those things. But I always say it's always nice to hear from people on the phone. You know, sometimes the old pick up the phone and call message is just as good.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, anyway, people have got your Instagram, so that's another way you can contact you. And well, thank you so much, Sam, for being here today, for taking the time of your holiday. Keep enjoying the sunshine. It looks fab there.
It's lovely. It's gorgeous. Although it was snowy, I wasn't quite ready I was all dressed all ready for the sun, and forgot that, you know, by the sea it's a little bit windier than in London.
Oh yes, yeah. Well, enjoy. Have a lovely weekend for the rest of the bank holiday.
Speak to you soon. Lovely.
Bye-bye. Bye. All right, everyone. That was Sam. Thank you for joining me again in another Mothering and Matrescence Monday, where we talk about different challenges that we face as mothers in matrescence as we become mothers, and raising our children and growing alongside them. I will stop this Mothering and Matrescence Mondays for now, so I'll come back with new guests soon. But for now, this is the last one. I might do some in Spanish. But yeah, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.